Welcome again to another leadership lesson. This is number 10. I have Heather Danley. She and I have a lot in common because she was the past state president of the South Carolina JCs, and then she was the 101st national president of the United States Junior Chamber of Commerce, or now known as JCI U.S.A. Got that right?
That's right.
But started your JC career in Newberry. I want to ask you a question. Did somebody ask you to join, or did you seek out the JCs? How did it come to be that you joined the JCs?
So a little bit of both. It's that kind of voluntold thing, and what you do with it is where you go in the future. So my mom was a single mom. She moved to the Newberry area. I would say maybe when I was in second grade. So what is that, like seven?
Uh-huh.
And she wanted to get involved. She was opening a brand new Domino's in Newberry. Newberry was a lot smaller than it is now. And she went to a chamber event for Domino's, and the chamber led her to the JCs. So I would kind of say that I was co-parented by the JCs, and by the JCs, I mean a lot of those members at that time, and kind of grew up in the JCs as a junior JC, enjoyed going to meetings. And actually, for my 21st birthday, I was gifted a membership because at that time you had to be 21 to join the JCs. I was gifted a membership, and I never stopped running when I got that. So, when you get a gift, it's the gift that keeps giving. And it was
Sure.
something that for, I will cherish till the day I die, because it was a great gift that I enjoyed and am very passionate about it.
So we have more in common than I thought because again, I grew up. My father was a Rock Hill JC, and my mother was what they called a Rock Hill JCette when it was two separate organizations. And I was the kid that took all to the district meetings, and
Yep.
so I was going to JC meetings long before I even knew what JCs were.
I know it's nice to serve. I remember one of the first JC junior JC awards I ever received, because we honor our children as well, and we still do that today. One of the first awards I was awarded was by Liz Young. She was a state
Right.
president of South Carolina, and it's still amazing that I get to work with her now, as she's involved in our honor society, the Senate. So it's kind of nice to see that full circle. She saw me when I was a baby JC, and climb up to the ranks.
Heather, when you joined the Newberry JCs in 2003, what leadership skill did you learn that you're still practicing today?
I would say getting involved. The great thing about the JCs and other nonprofits is you got to jump in, but you got to be willing to do the work. And it's okay to fail in asking questions. And I still tell my coworkers and my employees, like, try something. Even if you're not sure, it's okay to ask, but don't just assume. But
Right.
asking questions by getting involved. I attended a lot of meetings. I stepped into baby projects, or maybe co-chaired a project, so I could be taken under somebody's wing. So maybe I wasn't so nervous to chair the haunted houses or the Christmas parades, the larger projects, when it came time to chair by myself. So really just stepping in and getting involved, and not just sitting in the back of the room, maybe.
Uh-huh.
I
And you
like
brought up something
involvement.
I wanted to ask you about. So JCs are known for leadership training through community service. What specific projects, maybe in Newberry, did you run or chair that you think created those leadership abilities that served you in your role as national president?
I would say any large project that required project management, and event management. So you're thinking of the car shows,
Uh-huh.
the haunted houses. You're not just dealing with internally your fellow members, you're dealing with committees, you're dealing with different personalities, you're dealing with the community. So, if you're having a social and you're chairing a social inside of your small knit organization, you're getting, the inside of your organization. But when you start going out and sharing projects that invite your community out, like the car shows, haunted houses, you're also dealing with more personalities. You're dealing with community people. You're dealing with community workers. For example, the car show, we had to have, fire trucks there. We had to have the rescue people there, all as a precaution, of course. Um, or police officers. So you build those relationships, and those are relationships that I still have. in Newberry with some of those, the sheriff's department, with the fire department, and I've built those into the Lexington community, which I'm involved with now. So really, just the involvement of managing people of different personalities, because you're not always going to get the same. And fortunately, I was able to take that into my job because nobody is the same. No one person or two people are alike.
Before we started videoing, I shared that I was in a fraternity. I was president of Pi Kappa Phi, and if you're in a fraternity or sorority in college, you learn how to run meetings and motivate your brothers or sisters or manage conflict. But those people who don't get involved in Greek life, or perhaps maybe went to a junior college or community college, or didn't even go to college, maybe they just went through high school, they don't have that opportunity to do that. But what do you think? What kind of skills do you think proved most valuable to you that you learned in the JCs?
It's funny that you should ask that, Bill. Let me tell you something. When I joined my son's PTO, I had never really been to a meeting other than JC meetings or maybe town council meetings or school board meetings, but I had never been to a small knit meeting where there's only 25 to 45 people, let's just say. The JCs are good at a lot of things, but they're really good at Robert's rules, and they're very good at meetings for meetings. And being in control of your meeting was something that I learned way before I was even state president. Probably when I was local chapter president, you have to be control of your meeting. And if you're not in control, then you could be almost in trouble because you're not in control, kind of like being a parent. You want to be in control of your child. So definitely the meetings. And I remember going to my first PTO meeting and having a conversation with the at then president and said, "Hey, do you think the next meeting, before we get started, I could just kind of run over some things about how and when to talk in a meeting instead of us all talking over each other?" And as crazy that sound, like raising our hand and waiting to be called on, because I was so confused of what was going on in the meeting because seven people were trying to talk at one time. And I am excited to say that on my fourth year of PTO, that we definitely run our meetings more efficient than we had in the past. So that is one thing that I can definitely say taught me is meeting control. And it just seems uniformed. And if an outsider's coming in, they're not lost.
Yeah.
They know what's kind of going on, and there's not 17 people talking over each other.
I'm glad you brought up the PTO because anytime you get involved in whether it's the PTO or in a civic organization, leadership roles can be intimidating for somebody that may not have been in them before. What kind of advice would you give anyone who is going to be chairing their PTO or their civic organization?
Once again, stepping up and getting involved. And when I say getting involved, that doesn't mean taking on the largest project, but by volunteering to bring, cookies to the next teacher half day work thing, but getting involved, and by knowing your teachers or by knowing your audience that you're serving. I'm using PTO right now, but I said I was going to step into PTO because one, I didn't grow into the school district that my son was in. A lot of times we raise our kids where we were raised. And fortunately, I was raised in Newberry. I'm raising my child in a different town just over the river. And I didn't know anything about our school district. And so as soon as my kids started kindergarten, I reached out to the principal because I didn't know anybody and said, "Hey, I want to get involved." And they said, "Great. How much do you want to be involved?" So I said, "Well, depends on." I went to my first meeting, and obviously, as a person of leadership, I jumped in a little bit, probably stronger than some would. But I try to invite parents that I'm just meeting or that my son has mentioned that he's friends with. I try to invite parents and say, "Just come listen to what's going on into your school." And I promise that there's something that will hit the nerve that you're going to be concerned with in a good way, or maybe that you want to get involved with. Maybe you want to see a fundraiser for your child's school that's going to offset the cost of field trips, or it's going to offset the cost of field day shirts. We just, in our school, just ran a big fundraiser where we were able to raise right about $11,000 to offset costs for our children. And one of the things that they're going to get is field day shirts. And, kids love prizes, and every kid is a winner, no matter if they raise the money or not. But enough money was raised for all the kids to get field day shirts. And I asked two parents that had been to a few meetings, like, hey, will you come help sort shirts? It's the easiest thing. They don't necessarily have to deal with the teachers, they don't have to deal with the principals. We're just going to sort shirts. We're going to divide them up by grade, and we're going to stick teachers' names on them, and we're going to call it a day. And so I think being invited and taking that invitation helps as well. Because
The
it is
organization,
intimidating to walk into a room full of strangers, no matter where you go, a JC meeting, a town council meeting, a committee meeting, anything. I know you've done it before, and maybe we're used to it at this point.
yeah, the JCs is an organization for young people 21 to 39, and I'm a little bit removed from that. That was 26 years ago, and I know what kind of skills was able to develop. But what do you think the organization offers young professionals today?
Once again, I think project management, dealing with difficult people. You're always going to have different backgrounds. You're bringing in people from different backgrounds. I work in healthcare, so of course I know lots of healthcare workers. I don't necessarily know, somebody that's working in the industry of insurance, or I don't know someone that's working as a mechanic, or I don't know somebody from all different walks of life. But the JCs provided that for us, and I think that someone that is trying to grow professionally, it's almost eye opening
Yeah.
for someone to see our young people now. It's hard ever since COVID, I feel, a face to face, as we're talking on Zoom. However, we've gotten away from a lot of face to face, and people are very intimidated to talk to people face to face and rely on their cell phones. I mean, I get really frustrated if I call my doctor's office and I have to go through 17 different prompts to talk to someone. And I mean, I understand that that's where our society is heading, but getting back to that personal touch, and people want to be seen and people want to be heard. And I realized that when I was national president, that in order to lead and get followers, you've got to be willing to do the work, and you've got to have your feet on the ground, and you've got to pick up the phone and talk to people and get on their level.
Yeah.
Not everyone is knowledgeable on things that you might be knowledgeable about. So just listening to them. And I think having a good ear, I mean, just listening to people is very important.
Heather, I was 9 when I think our country was really at its throat. The Vietnam War was raging. The country was just split in two. I have never seen the country as bitterly partisan it is today. You can just get on Facebook and you just see the really nasty comments. The JCs is nonpartisan, but how can an organization like the JCs bring our communities together?
I think working on more community service projects and really honing in on the leadership. I am very passionate about community service. It's hard though to have young people understand that we're doing something for free. We're volunteering. As we're in a workplace, we're going to get paid. But really, if we come together for one common goal, I know a large event that people are very passionate about is giving back to children. So like a kid's shopping spree, people put their differences aside to help to help make things better for children. And I think finding that niche that maybe your chapter and your people in your organization can all come to one common ground. But we see it everywhere. I mean, I don't even like to tell people anything about political, to keep it completely out, because if you think about it, people start to judge you if you say, oh, I'm a Republican, oh, I'm a Democrat. But if I say, oh, I'm a woman that likes to serve my community,
Yeah.
they don't think of anything about by that. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important that we focus in on more community service instead of what side are we on. Let's find out what our common ground is. Like, what does our town need? What does our community need? And what do we need as a chapter or an organization?
Heather, Robbie Dawkins was the first South Carolina state president, went on to be national president. He was 70th president. I followed in his footsteps just a couple of years later, and I was the 73rd national president. And you were the 101st, but you did something that Robbie and I both wanted to do, and we couldn't get it done. You grew the national organization. You were the first president in many, many years that got that done. What strategies or approaches did you use to make that happen?
So before I became national president, so I think it starts before you become the leader. Before I did, I looked to see who my circle was. I asked my family for support because I was going to need the support emotionally at home, physically at home because I had a small child. I was going to need my employer to support me because I was going to be out of the practice. I was going to be out of my job sometimes a week at a time, sometimes maybe just a day. But I asked for all of that support before I took the application and the oath to be national president. And when January 1 hit, I knew that I had 365 days to reach my goals. And I believe that I worked 365 days on the JCs. But it started before, like I just said, I built a team. I had that team trust in me. And whatever our goals were, they were goals for all of us together. And we knew that if we were going to be leaders, we had to be willing to work hard because we wanted to ask our state presidents to work hard and in turn ask our local members to work hard. I really liked picking up the phone. Like I told you, I was a phone person. And it came down to really getting to our local members. So either we asked our state presidents, hey, I challenge you this month to reach out to all of your local chapter presidents. Next month, I want you to call your local vice presidents. Next month, I want you to call a local president, a local member. So if you were a young 25-year-old and the national vice president or even the national president of a nonprofit is calling you, I mean, that's impressive. Like you
That's big.
really want to have boots on the ground and you want to be part of something that's so much bigger. But I think, and this is in a lot of our organizations, people join on the local level, but they don't realize that there's a state level or a national level or an international level. And so I think just getting the word out there and by picking up the phone and reaching out to our local member is how we got it. That's exactly how we got to growth and having my team behind me and supporting my team when they needed support and they supported me and giving 110%. And it's hard. It's hard to be a full-time parent, a full-time employee, and a national president. But if you have determination and you have goals and you have the right team, you can get it done.
I think ours is the only organization that creates leaders and then kicks them out. At the age of 40,
I
you
know.
have to leave and go on to another organization because it's a young people's organization. And I'm sorry, after the age of 40, you're not necessarily a young professional. But I've been involved and still a member of Kiwanis. I'm a member of Rotary. And I've been able to see firsthand the challenges that civic clubs are having across the country in terms of its decline. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing all of our civic groups? Again, JCs, Kiwanis, Rotary, Sertomas. What's the biggest challenge you think they face?
So unfortunately in ours, we have this timeline, like what are we going to do? We're going to recruit someone between the ages of 18 and they are going to be kicked out. And a lot of people do ask, well, why do you get kicked out? But it is a young professional organization. And I hope and I challenge a lot of the JCs when they age out to go get involved in the Kiwanis, in the Rotaries, or just in your chamber. I mean, I was fortunate enough as my job allowed me to get involved in my chamber. But the biggest challenge, I think, is an invite. Inviting young people out, or even older people, if it's a different organization, is inviting them out. People aren't coming to us. We've got to go out and seek them. We have too many distractions now. A lot of things are on the internet. Things are at our hands. I mean, you just think about AI and Chat GPT. People don't think they need to learn skills anymore. Well, I totally disagree with that. There are skills that need to be learned. Um, and so, really, for organizations to go out and find these people. I remember when I was a baby JC, and you probably remember this, we used to have huge membership drives where we would be out in the community and passing out cards. We don't see that very often. I know the JCs don't do it very much. In my town, I don't see the Lions, the Kiwanis, I don't see any of those really doing it. We hear about them, but we don't see membership pushes for them. We see that they are doing projects, but are we really telling people to come join us, come be one of us? Are we opening up our arms and making people feel welcome? I would say that some people are doing that, but I probably, as I've gotten older, maybe didn't do that as well as I did when I was younger into the organization. But inviting people and really having those membership nights where we just really talk about our organization. We talk about things we're passionate about, and it's easy to talk about things we're passionate about. And obviously, if we're in those organizations, if we're a member of the Kiwanis or we're a member of the chamber, we're passionate, we're giving our time, so we have to have some ties to it, but
If
really
you,
just an invitation.
if you were speaking right now, if you had if we put you on one of the late night shows and you're speaking to Americans across the country, particularly young people, what would you tell them is the reason they should join an organization that is out there creating leadership opportunities and serving their community? Why is it important?
To make a difference. I mean, if you think about what our world is today, and people say that one person can't make a change, I do not believe in that. One person can make a change, and you can make a change for the better. I I wish more young people stepped into leadership roles, um, and joined organizations that helped better their self. Everyone should want to better their self. I went to college to be a dental assistant, a chairside dental assistant. I'm going to fix everybody's teeth with the dentist. I'm always going to be sitting right beside the dentist, and I'm going to comfort my patients. I'm going to make them happy. And so, was I always going to do that forever? Was I always just going to be the person that was the assistant to the filling fillers? So I believe that this organization, the JCs, got me to the leadership role I'm in today. I now manage 38 women, four doctors in a small private practice. But I started out as a chairside assistant. So I started out as a dentistry and moved into a leadership role. Was I a leader 20 years ago when I first started out of school? No, not really. I mean, I probably was born a leader. Are you born a leader or do you become a leader? That's the magic question. And I believe it's a little bit of both. But the JCs and serving in nonprofit organizations really created the person and the mindset that I have now to deal with those difficult situations, to handle conflict resolution, to handle different personalities that aren't like me. I'm a worker. I love to work. I say all the time that I need to find another hobby now that I've aged out of the JCs, and I have a son. Like, what are my hobbies? I don't know, because for so long it was always volunteering and doing things. But I like to work. I mean, I like to work, but I know not everybody's like that. And so I try to listen to people. And I believe that by joining organizations that can provide leadership skills, they're going to benefit you. They're benefiting the organization, but they ultimately benefit you as a person, and they change your personality for the better. I mean, I'm still my wild, loud, crazy self, but I also sometimes can sit back and listen and hear the story as where the old me before I became into the roles that I served into the organization maybe would have just answered before I thought.
And that brings me to my last question. If you could go back to a young Heather Danley, 25 years old,
I'm not much older than that now.
what,
Just kidding.
what advice would you give her?
Things aren't always going to be as they appear. And what you think is stressful at the moment, really the next day will really not matter. And
Yeah.
I still have to remind myself of that. I remember, stressing about a project that would still come out in the end. Or I remember stressing about a dental case that I had no control over. The dentist had no control over. The patient was anxious and you have no control over it. My son going to school, like, is he going to fit in? Those are things that you can't control. And so just do your best and put your best foot forward, and things will all work out in the end.
Yeah. I was reading a book the other day and I saw this line that I'd never seen before. It says, when you have the alligators nipping at your heels, deal with the alligators. So take care
Very
of the
true.
problem that's right in front of you. Don't worry about the other
Yep.
things. Deal with that. Heather, again, as Robbie and I, we tried to do something, we couldn't get it done. And you said something early on. You said the success, the foundation you lay. So when you're successful, the bigger success is seeing it be successful after you've gone. And it's so rewarding for me as a past state president of South Carolina Junior Chamber and United States JCs to see the organization and you growing the organization. So on behalf of South Carolina JCs, I'm so proud of you. I really am.
Thank you. But like you said, it's the foundation. So it's definitely the people that came before me in South Carolina. It's the people that came before me in the U.S.J.Cs, and it's the people that's going to come behind me and still supporting them. I'm always a phone call away for the new JCs that want to. And if a local member called me today and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining. Should I join?" I would say yes. It was the best decision that was ever given to me and the best opportunity, because it wasn't something that I seeked out, but it was something that was given to me, and I will take that with me forever.
Well, you're on the board of the United States JC Foundation. You're still out there helping the junior chamber and working with President Josh and his team. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for what you've done for the Junior Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you for you.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye bye.